Coming up, a smart switch you don't need an app for or even an internet connection. We talk Braille again and dead fungi carcasses.
You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Priest.
Well, hello. Welcome to Thursday's Double Tap. Is that where we're at, Shaun?
Oh, questioning there. Yes, it is Thursday. And of course, that means double Thursday of a new season of Night Manager. Yes, the old season 12 has finished, and we're now starting an exciting new season 13 for 3 months on Night Manager on the Amazon Echo. Sounds like
Unlucky
an advert.
for some.
We're all starting from zero again, so time to start battling up.
Is this when I should be joining? Is this not the bit I was supposed to join in? Like
yes,
at the new
exactly
season?
right. Yes, everyone starts at zero, everything resets, and we all start fighting all at the same level-ish.
Okay, all right. I'll look into it. You know what? I might just wait for the box set to come out and, and just
can I
go
just
from
say,
there.
He's not going to look into it, so don't even search for Stephen Scott on Night Manager. It's pointless. I'm Shaun
Do you
with
know
the
what?
Shed.
You know what? This is like being back at school when they said I could amount to nothing. I mean, they were right, I suppose. But, they were attributing it to blindness. I didn't even bring in my mental capacity.
You know what? That's the last time I'm going to mention Night Manager from now on.
People like you mentioning it.
I think I'm pushing it too much. It's something I enjoy, but that's it. Now on, it's just Thursday. Happy
Stop bringing
Thursday.
your toys to work.
Sorry.
Hey, listen, talk about bringing your toys. I've got a great video to play you. This is from Kevin Chao, who recorded this on his Meta Ray-Bans. So if you're listening with your earbuds in, you should get some nice audio out of this as well. But Kevin Chao was on the show recently. He was talking to us about his experience at the Vista Center and experiencing an event there. And while he was there, he saw lots of great kit. And you might remember he came on and told us all about it. You know, remember the Pocket Dot? I think it was called
Yes.
the Braille display that goes on the back of your phone with MagSafe. That's not out yet, but does sound very interesting. And he also talked about Lotus Smart Switches. Now, this uses a ring to essentially point the ring at an infrared switch, and that switch can be placed magnetically onto light switches. Now, it could be used for other things as well, but for the moment, it's for light switches. And Kevin has rather neatly recorded this video on his Meta Ray-Bans demonstrating his new toys.
There's 3 different magnetic covers for light switches. I've got them in my hand. And in top left, there's a holder for the ring and a cord. And in top right, there's a ring. I'm going to place a ring on my index finger. And there's also a power USB-C, the power adapter. So I'm going to take this and place it on a light switch here. I'm just going to place it over, and it makes a satisfying snap. And I can point it at the ring, my ring at the light switch, and point and click, and it will turn off. And the light makes a sound that the light has been pressed, and you can hear the motorized mechanism. You press it again. You can hear that again, and I'm going to place it, go into this other light switch, place it on, place it over, it magnetically attaches. I can press the button on the ring, point, click, and turn it on. Go to this other light switch, down the hall, and place my hand over it, place over the cover, point, click, and it turns off. Simple.
I mean, that is just incredible. I mean, he literally took that out of the box, and in that, 40, 50 seconds video, he had it set up, and he was turning his lights on and off using this little ring that he presses, and, that essentially activates the switch. And it's all infrared. You don't require internet connection. You don't require anything more than the ring and the switch cover itself. I just think that's a brilliant idea.
Well, this is just technology done really well, right? How often we talked about the smart home? Sounds great, and it is great. I love it. I love all the things I can do in my house, except I need 4 different apps. I need to make sure the internet's always connected. If one of them goes down, suddenly my doorbell doesn't work. It's not for the faint-hearted to set these things up. But this, as you just said, out of the box, bang, straight on, and it works so well. I mean, it is just a ring you wear, infrared connection, and something, a little motor to flick the switch to turn your lights on and off. this could be expanded to so many other different things.
Yeah, I have to say, I feel this is one of these products that could very quickly become a victim of its own success because, look, the amount of switches and different types of switches and plugs and lights and things that this could be used on, are vast. And the potential for all kinds of functions. I think this is really cool because, like you say, everything has always required an app. Everything requires an app.
Yeah.
Or everything requires to be connected to the internet first. This is the first time I've seen something like this that has never required any of that. Doesn't require it. You just need the ring. The ring, and what's wonderful is you don't need a different ring for every room. It's just a one ring because essentially it's a remote control, right? It's an infrared remote control.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And listen, maybe there's a thing where the ring isn't suitable. I mean, I don't see why there isn't maybe one of those universal remote controls that you could train to do the same thing.
Yeah,
if a ring wasn't for you. So, I mean, it's just the versatility of this, and it's almost low tech, high tech, right? It's just so cool.
Yeah, I think it's such a great idea. And one of the examples that was given by the developer of it, who, by the way, you can watch a full conversation with him on our YouTube channel, because we did speak to him for our TV show last year. And it was very interesting to learn about the technology and how he developed it.
Yeah.
But also to think about the potential beyond the home. So he talked about, for example, if you go to a hotel and you want to make the facilities there smart, you can just literally snap it off the wall and take it with you. You're not leaving. You don't leave any residue. There's nothing. There's nothing stuck. It's just magnets. Connecting to the plate. It is so clever.
It is.
Love it. So great idea. Lotus is the name of the company. The Lotus Ring and the Smart Switch, which can be bought as a pack. And Kevin is clearly going to have a lot of fun with that. I honestly think that's a fantastic thing.
Great job as well, Kevin, I should say. Just taking a quick video there. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So helpful to everyone else.
Kind of inspired me a little bit as well, because sometimes you think, I'm going to do a demo of something, and you think, okay, I'll need to get overhead cameras and microphones all over the place. Like, you know what? I've got a pair of glasses on my face that do the job. What am I talking about? And, the video is great and the audio is great. Just wonderful. Thank you for that, Kevin. Really appreciate that. We are going to continue with the emails today because, yesterday we really just jumped into the inbox, and I kind of want to do the same today because there's so many interesting comments. And I'm turning to Mike now, who's got in touch with us, I think, for the first time.
Hey, Stephen and Shaun. It's Mike from Ontario, Canada. I just stumbled on your podcast a couple of weeks ago and have enjoyed the content on a number of levels. I started losing my sight at the age of 32, and some 20 plus years later, everything needs to be audio at work or at home. My wife still mentions that for our first wedding anniversary, I came home and told her that I was going blind. Of course, neither one of us knew what that meant. My wife is fully sighted, and I would say it has been as much of a journey for her as it has been for me. So, to touch upon a few of the discussion points on your show during the week of November 4th. The Neuralink debate. In simple words, sign me up. Having lost my sight at a later age, I was able to enjoy my sight for a number of years. Do not get me wrong, I am quite comfortable with who I am now and, for the most part, continue to deal with my sight loss as a challenge to either adapt to or overcome, depending on what situations arise. Do not get me wrong, I am quite comfortable with who I am now and, for the most part, continue to deal with my sight loss as a challenge to either adapt to or overcome, depending on what situations arise. I will say that I will regret not seeing my son at his wedding or my daughter in her wedding gown, or to be able to see my grandchildren, but technology will step in to help out when the time comes. However, what I still yearn for is to climb into my car and burn a few litres of petrol when I get the urge. On the topic of technology, I loved the episode when we went through items in Steve's loft. I laughed a little too much and too loud that my wife came down to listen with me, so after a couple of hours of going through my shelves in the basement, I am happy to say she has planned this to happen every change of the season. So maybe getting introduced to InnoSearch through your podcast may not turn out to be a good thing. I am, admittedly, a gadget junkie. I would not go so far as to say that I am a tech junkie because I am known as a jack of all trades, but definitely a master of none in the tech field. However, going through the transition of having my sight deteriorate to what I referred to for a long time as partially sighted to now I refer to being blind, I discovered that one can spend a large amount of money on gadgets that at the time I needed to have to cope, or so I told myself. I mean, we found an old CCT screen, a number of handheld magnifiers, a couple of digital magnifiers, and a couple of pen friends, multiple versions of ZoomText software, all of which are totally useless to me. And before you ask, what I also found out is that I am not that good at taking out batteries when storing items, so almost all the items found were in no shape to donate. Further, yes, I have paid the money up front for my Glide, and I am not so patiently waiting for it to be delivered next fall, but I may comment on this more once you publish your interview with Amos. Jumping off the above, I was a little confused about the blind culture comments regarding those that are blind versus those that are partially sighted. So, based on the definition discussed for being partially blind, I would fit into this category because I can pick up light out of the sweet spot from the far corner of my left eye when I turn my head to the side and roam around until I find the light. Absolutely absurd that this is still considered partially blind. I mean, really, what am I going to do with this level of sight besides give myself a good neck crack once in a while? Over the years, I would be at the point where night blindness would set in, and I could not see a thing at night. So I can picture myself entering a telephone booth at sunset as partially blind and emerging, cape and all, as blind. With regards to Braille, since I lost my sight later in life, this was not a skill learned early or even thought about. I decided I wanted to learn, since the odd time in my office building I would stumble upon Braille and not have a clue what it meant. So I inquired about services provided by the CNIB in my area, and they provided an instructor. She was very good, and we got along famously. However, it's about as hard as learning a new language at this age. So, bless her heart, she tried. It was an epic fail after my classes ended and I let it lapse. However, with my wife and I watching our parents get older, I noticed that along with their sight, their hearing started to go as well. So I started thinking, well, I am ahead of the curve on one of those. So in the case I start losing my hearing as well, how am I going to communicate? So, once I retire from work, the next step will be to pick up Braille again. Which leads me to ask you two. Any advice as to which tech out there is good for learning Braille on one's own? I mean, what would have been good to accompany my Braille textbooks would be to have the actual letters written across each letter or word so that I could ask my wife if I have it right. Sorry for the long email. I probably should have wrote in sooner, but after spending 8 to 10 hours a day working, trying to remember or find 100 plus JAWS keystrokes, one only wants to clean up after supper, grab a nightcap and listen to your podcast in my man cave. Keep up the great work and debates. Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Mike in the man cave. God bless you, sir. Wow, where do we start with this? I suppose, do you want to pick up on the Braille recommendation? That's an interesting one. For someone who wants to learn Braille, what would you recommend? I mean, is there any tech out there?
I mean, tech-wise, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you then got to spend some money, whatever that money is. It's going to be, especially look, the first way to begin, even today, despite all the tech that's out there, is still the Perkins Brailler. It really is, because ultimately that gives you the ability to write and read back what you've written. It's not going to solve the issue visually, though, and that's a good point you make about someone reading along with you who's sighted, almost being able to sort of check mark as you go. That's a really interesting point I've never thought about before. There may be resources that do that. I'm not aware of them. I know, for example, Hadley in the States do a great work providing Braille courses, and there's lots of that kind of stuff going around.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's more of that. Brailleist Foundation in the UK and CNIB offer services as well, and especially throughout Canada, different provinces. But I wonder if I'm going to maybe throw this out a little bit, because here's one thought I have, which is the Hable One.
Go on.
Okay, so the Hable One is kind of being picked up by a lot of people nowadays who don't know Braille. I mean, we've heard this from Freek van Velsen, the man who has been making this available.
Yep.
And he said, a lot of people who buy the Hable One don't know Braille. They use it as a way to learn. Now, the example from the other day would be the Mantis Q40. That's a bit of an expensive tool.
Well, that's exactly where I was going, because what we're thinking about here is, because if you go with the manual Perkin, the big clunky Perkin Brailler, that is the frustration that I found. You can type away and then you got instant, you can read. But how do I know I've actually done it correctly?
Yeah.
So
you need a course or something to go alongside it.
You need the course. Well, you need someone with you to double check. And, that was the point when the Mantis Q40 was talking about text to speech. I think that's a great learning tool, because you got the Braille display there to actually brush up on your reading skills. You got your typing there. Plus, you can check it with the text to speech. So fantastic. But of course, there's a price for that, isn't there?
Yeah, that's a lot of money for a training tool, and I don't imagine that's something that you would necessarily need at this stage, Mike. Now, I suppose there's different ways to look at it, right? I mean, let's just get to brass tacks. If you've got some money in the bank and you're looking to, as I would call it, invest in Braille, and that's how I saw the Mantis. For me, it was an investment.
Yeah.
It's something that it was going to take me probably a long time to really use fully. I kind of saw it as a necessary investment. I had to have the tool. Now, I didn't know the text-to-speech feature was coming at that point, and I'll be really pleased when it does, because I think that is going to be a huge benefit, especially on the training side. So, those kind of devices, yes, but I would say Perkins to start with. Hable One's a good option. It's a cheaper cost. It allows you to type Braille. It won't allow you to read it back, but it will allow you to type it.
Of course, there's always Braille screen input on the iPhone or Braille back on your Android smartphone as well. I mean, that's a great way to learn the typing of Braille, because as you're typing, it reads out what you've just typed. So there's another way. It's for me. This is a discussion we've had before about, is it important to learn how to type in Braille or read Braille? Because I have absolutely no chance in reading Braille. I really struggle to make out the individual dots. And that's because I've just let it lapse. I haven't kept up on it. Like Mike was saying, I did the grade 1 and I thought it was great. I was texting in Braille, grade 1. Everything was great. And then for some reason, I just fell out of it and never used it. And once that happens, it's not good. You need to use it.
Well, look, forgive me for being controversial, but look, it's also okay not to learn it. All right? I know we've got some voicemails coming up on this topic that completely disagree with that point of view. But
yes,
I think it's actually okay if you don't learn it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's what suits you. If I felt, and I do feel to some degree that audio is faster for me. I don't love audio. I prefer to, my ideal would be to sit and read in Braille every day. That's the God's honest truth. I'd love to do that. I feel I would get on better. The problem I have is I don't have the speed yet to be able to make it useful to me. It would take me too long to do anything. Exactly. It's not practical. Yeah. I'd love to, though, but it just isn't, because I do feel sometimes with voice, it grates on you, and you just think, oh, I just want to turn this voice off, which is kind of why I think sometimes I've, with what vision I had left and have left, I've always tried to use it. I wonder if it's partly that, sometimes you just think, I can't do this voice anymore, so I'll try and do something visually here. But either way, as you're going through this process of, it feels like we're all preparing, it's like preparing for the dark.
Yes.
And it's so hard, right? Because the conversations I have, they're very similar across the board, no matter who I hear from. Everyone always has the same feeling. It's this sense of foreboding, but equally this sense of optimism with the technology. But it's very hard to marry the two together. It's hard to marry that foreboding feeling with, okay, I'm going to learn all this. In some ways, it's a useful distraction technique. That's how I'm looking at it a little bit at the moment. I think if I was to lose all my vision, and, when I learned recently about the fullness of the condition that I got in 2017, hypertension, and realized the impact that could potentially have in the future, it kind of gave me a moment of pause. Because up until that point, the condition I had was never really going to deteriorate. At least I didn't think it was going to deteriorate much further to the extent of losing all my vision. But with hypertension, that is more of a risk.
Yeah.
And that did give me some pause for thought. So I'm
so
kind of
you
like
preparing.
Okay, I'm kind of starting my hibernation with Braille books process now, I think.
I think
but
you're
Braille,
right.
But Braille, but like I say, Braille doesn't necessarily have to be the answer. If audio works for you and you can do it, I mean, first off, you're going to save a lot of money. And if you can get the job done the same way, does it really matter?
Look, the point is...
Forget education, forget, future employment.
Before we go there.
That's different, because I think that's different.
Yes.
I think that's a different conversation. But I think if you're someone who is either retired or someone who's, coming out of the workplace, or maybe isn't at work anymore, isn't intending to be, then I think that the relationship with your technology is different. What are you trying to achieve is the question, I think.
Yeah, and it's important not to put too much pressure on yourself as well. I mean, there's a lot to cope with sometimes, so don't set yourself up with something that it's going to cause you anxiety. It's it's meant to be a tool that can help you. But those organisations that Stephen mentioned there, Hadley, Braillis, and CNIB, I think they're your best option. Just reach out, and there's always someone there that will give you point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know how you got on, Mike. Great to hear
Can I
from
just
you.
say, Neuralink? Yeah, again, I don't think this is too controversial to say. We're hearing this a lot. I almost find it interesting that people sometimes feel guilty for saying, "Yeah, I want my sight back." Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Absolutely agree with you.
Look, I know it's unfashionable to say this, but we were born. Well, not all of us, granted, but the majority of us are born with eyes.
Mm-hmm.
We're as a human race, we are meant to see.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's why it's a different conversation. It's very difficult for people who have been blind their whole lives to because they've got, and this is not a criticism, this is a fact, that they are in a position where they have never seen. So they don't know that world, and therefore they almost can't understand why you would want that world. It's like, well, what's wrong with this world, right? And I get that. I do get that. But when you're in the middle ground, when you're in the position where, like Mike's saying, and you've been there and I'm here right now, when you're in that position where your vision is actually causing you potential harm, when your vision is problematic, I'll be honest. So we were coming back from this hotel the other week, and we came back quite late at night because the weather was turning really bad. So we decided to leave early, and we came home, and it was quite late. It was at 10 o'clock at night, and it's all farm roads where we are. So it's all tracks. It's terrible. And the road was pretty bad, and all I can see out the front of the car is a tiny bit of light, and then occasionally flashes of lights of either cars or I have no idea what's coming at me. And it has made me such a nervous passenger in a car because I suddenly get a flash of light and I'm convinced that's it. We're all going to die because the car's going to crash. And
it's so Final Destination when I'm in a car now. Something's going to happen. Yeah, I know. I'm
convinced of it. And all it needs is for a driver to say, oh, and then the slam on the brake, and that's it. I think that's it. We're dead. We're all dead. That's it. Life's over. And I've become such a nervous passenger. I was never like that. Never like that at all. Maybe it was because I could see a bit better around me. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I know now how nervous I feel about it. Yeah. And it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me not travel as much. It's partly why I don't. It's strange. This sounds strange, but this is why I like getting the bus as much as I do. Because I don't know, I just feel safer in a bus compared to a car. I think if something's going to, it could arguably be a lot worse. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think about it too much beyond that. I don't put a huge amount of depth of thought into that. But I don't know. There's just there's that kind of sense of safety there, and I want to go with that. I'm with you, Mike. I find there's a point that comes where your vision becomes. It's like they say you're partially sighted, and then you get these blind people who'd say to you, at least you can see something. And I'm like, seriously, guys?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and hello, Mrs. Mike, as well. Thank you for listening, even though it's forced listening, but hello.
Oh, that didn't sound forced. Sounded like she was enjoying herself, so that's good.
Okay, all right, okay.
I'm thinking what we'll do, right? Maybe I'll do this near the festive period when we had downtime. We'll bring our toys to school. Well, what I think we'll do is I will go up into my loft, right? I'll take my laptop with me, and I'll do the show up there, and I'll show you what I've got. Empty a box
from the loft.
Live from the loft. Wouldn't you love that? Shaun of the Shed, Stephen Aloft.
Hey, stop it now.
Sounds like a Christmas carol,
Old
doesn't it?
Stephen Aloft. Okay, that sounds great. Let's make that happen. Unbelievable.
I'll test the Wi-Fi, that's for sure. Okay, let's hear what Greg has to say.
Stephen, I know nothing about the specifics of your water bottle, but here are some general facts about UV light.
Oh, yeah.
First, of greatest importance, UV light is very hard on the retina and has been shown to accelerate the progression of RP and other retinal diseases.
Goodness.
I always wear eyewear with UV protection and highly recommend it. UV exposure also increases the risk of cataracts, and it is the spectrum of light which causes sunburn and increased skin cancer risk. I assume your water bottle is shielded in some way to prevent leakage of the UV light, but I really don't know. Now, to address your question, UV light in the right intensity and duration can kill fungi, bacteria, and viruses by disrupting their DNA structure. This might prevent illnesses and odours, but it doesn't remove any dirt or grime or dead fungi carcasses.
Oof.
You know what? Washing works really well. Greg in Pennsylvania.
If you were to do a word cloud of this show, you would never believe some of the words that go. Dead fungi carcasses. That wasn't on my bingo card today, if I'm perfectly honest.
So this is regarding the. Did you buy this?
No, I was thinking of buying.
You're
this is
thinking buying.
It's
Yes,
called the
this.
Lark, LARQ,
Yeah.
water bottle, which had a UV sanitizing function in it. Now,
Beam.
now essentially it's built into the cap of the bottle, and when you screw the cap on, you press a button on the top, and then inside the light. That's exactly what it does. It makes
And
that noise. It goes,
sterilizes the
and
bottle.
sterilizes the bottle of all its dead carcasses.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression from Greg, who I trust, by the way. He knows his stuff. That just wash it out, swill it out with some warm water, and you'll be better served.
Are you suggesting this is all just garbage just to sell a water bottle?
I wouldn't like to say that, but yes, it's exactly.
Okay, fair enough. I won't
Okay.
buy it then.
Don't
It was
bother.
on Black Friday sales, and I thought, well, I'll get one. But
All right, treat
it's
yourself.
still like $100 for a bottle, and you think, really, $100 for a bottle that I could just buy a cheap one and wash out myself?
Just fill up a cup and drink out of that. Thank you very much, Greg.
Yeah, good point. This is from the guy, by the way, who wants to buy. Wants to buy a UV water bottle with all this fancy cleaning technology in it. I've been using the same mug for my coffee for about the best part of 20 years. Pretty much just rinsing it out in the bathroom sink. So, dead fungi carcasses and all.
That's the episode title.
That's it. That's the one.
If I could spell it, that would be right.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, thank you, Greg, for that. I appreciate the information. Let's hear from Gregory, who's, I think, rather excited.
Hey, this is Gregory. Yahoo. Be My Eyes is on Meta. It's fantastic. Wow.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. I get it, Gregory. I get it. I'm getting the impression you're happy. That's the happiest I've ever heard, Gregory, by the way.
That's short and sweet, but Yahoo. I like that as well. I've got to say, I
Other
used
search engines are available.
Google. DuckDuckGo.
Bing, bing.
No, okay, let's
No, it's not. Let's move on. Quick.
I used Be My Eyes the other day again. It's just so the convenience is fantastic. Works so well. I know there's a few issues where it says Be My Eyes isn't responding. When that happens, very rarely, I just restart the phone and it works perfectly. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm so excited by Be My Eyes on the Meta Ray-Bans. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Gregory. We're all looking forward to playing and trying. If you haven't got the Meta Ray-Bans yet, I think you're probably the only person left in the blind community, it seems. I think we are, as a community, actually keeping the sales of Meta Ray-Bans up.
Yeah, probably.
If they were gathering metrics on this, which I'm pretty sure they're not, I mean, they keep data on pretty much everything else, but I don't think they can track that kind of data yet. Maybe that's a good thing.
Can you imagine if there was an announcement saying that, you know what, the sales haven't been good for the mainstream, so we're going to discontinue it.
Trash the whole
There
thing.
would be a riot.
Well, a blind riot. Which,
A blind riot. I like that.
Well, sending emails to ourselves. Okay. Listen, while we're here, because we are, let's tell you how you can get in touch.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Okay, let's carry on with Stan, who feels he always has to get in touch because of the interesting conversations we have, Shaun Priest.
Here?
Hello, Steve and Shaun. And, the one thing I hate about listening to Double Tap, but it's a good thing, but I always hate it because I'm always feel that I have to respond because you guys have such stimulating discussions.
Ooh, well, here.
And, you were talking about the whole blind and visually impaired or low vision or whatever, the nuances of blindness and that sort of thing. Well, you also have it in the deaf community, and I was thinking about several years ago, probably going back at least 10 years, maybe more. One of the mainstream talking heads programs on radio had a discussion about the way totally deaf people felt when people got cochlear implants and had their hearing restored or that sort of thing, and what kind of things, because they were part of a certain community, and now they had this implant, and now they are not part of that community, so they're shunned by the people they formerly dealt with, because they weren't supposed to have that happen. Anyway, I thought I'd share that little tidbit because I just thought you folks would want to hear it. Anyway, take care. Have an awesome day. Happy double tapping.
Hey,
Bye.
double tapping. Tap, tap. Yeah, thank you for that, Stan. That's a really interesting perspective, actually, and you're absolutely right. I mean, look, of course, a lot of this is mirrored in other communities as well, one way or another. But it is interesting, isn't it, when you think about it? Because, if someone said to you, your child may well be deaf in one ear, but if you essentially have this cochlear implant into your baby or your child, the child will possibly hear. Would you or would you not do it? And there's been a lot of debate about this. Whether it's the right thing to do, whether or not if the child is deaf, the child should be deaf, and that's the way it is. I've got to be honest. I'd be the first to say, you know what, my child should be able to hear.
It's a really interesting aspect that I didn't even consider. But yeah, Stan, you bring up a very good point. Of course, I've seen this before, but only in the sense of a TV drama.
Yes.
And usually it's something like a deaf parents with a deaf child, and hey, your child can be cured if you like. And the parents, no, I don't want that. That's always the TV spin on this. But I don't know in reality actually what the effect and impact is of something like that. But it's very similar.
I saw it in a drama as well. And what it was, the story was, it was a friend of the family was deaf, and the mother, who was hearing, had a child who was born deaf. And the child was offered the opportunity, the parent was offered the opportunity for the child to get a cochlear implant. And the deaf friend said, a child who's deaf can live a happy life. And there are many, it's a great community to be part of, and and all of that. And eventually the child did get the implant, and the friend abandoned them. Essentially said, no, I don't want anything to do with you. This child is, essentially there's nothing wrong with this child, right?
Yeah, again, though, this is in TV world, right? I mean,
yeah, but I can see that conversation happening in the real world. I can see, and I see it in the blind community as well, because we talk about, for example, how we are shunned as partially sighted people versus blind people. Now, I call myself blind these days because my vision is at the level where I find them, take me outside of this house, and I can see nothing, frankly, as far as the world's concerned.
Yep.
There's no point pretending that I can see something. Even if I get a glimpse of light or a glimpse of a shape or a glimpse of something that is, that's the cup on the table. Hooray for me, but that's mixed up with a fog and a kaleidoscope of color
and shaking.
So, and shaking and all that horrible stuff. So, to all intents and purposes, as far as the world's concerned, I'm blind, and I get annoyed by people who, and still to this day, will call me out on social media and say, "You're not blind." Really? First off, what the hell's it got to do with you? But secondly, why you as a blind? I mean, this is blind people, right? We're not talking sighted people here.
Yeah.
Blind people coming after us for daring to sort of say, look, I'm blind too.
I don't know. It depends. It depends on. It's also frustrating from the other side of that. It's also frustrating to hear someone say, "Oh, you can do that. That's accessible," when in fact, if you're a screen reader user, actually that's not accessible. Maybe it's accessible if you use magnification, high contrast, or something else. So I think it is important in certain situations to say your level of sight rather than just blind or partially sighted.
the name of I want to say Matthew. I think it was the guy who came on and talked to us about this very subject. And he had written a tweet which went viral and caused all kinds of upset.
Yeah.
Matthew Alcock, I think it was. That was his name, the Wobbly Gamer on social media.
Exactly.
He was on the show a while back, and he talked about this and the vitriol that he faced for basically saying that people who identify... He was talking specifically about content creators, right? So people who were essentially saying they were blind, but actually were maybe not using the same access technology as we were. Now,
yeah, but
it's a difficult area for sure. It's a difficult subject.
It is, but I think we got be a little bit loosey-goosey with the term blind in our own community, because we know, as you just mentioned, Stephen Scott, blind can mean different things at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
It is difficult, though. I just think we need to be a little bit more understanding.
I think considerate. I think that's all we need to be, is considerate of each other.
The word.
I mean, look, I think what Matthew was talking about, just to sort of clarify that point, what he was talking about was content creators who, and I agree with that. I think, it's like what I do is if I'm doing something, I'll kind of make it clear. I'm doing this as a blind person, as in I'm using a screen reader. I'm, using the tools that a blind person would be using, so that the person listening would understand that, rather than, because I know what it's like. I know when I've listened to something, especially, certain reviewers online or people, I think, are you actually using a screen? Because when they say, oh, this is really accessible, I'm thinking, is it? And so you don't want to doubt that. And I think that really it's not so much, I don't think it's on the content creator to not identify as blind. I think my opinion on this is that it's actually on the person who's presenting that content to be clear about what they're using. Yes, I am blind, but I use Zoom text. And I think that we need to take the shame out of it. That's my point. We need to take the shame out of that. There's no shame in that. We keep people who are blind going on about pride all the time, but then equally there's all the shame that's cast upon.
Well, there's
people.
almost a shame on, hey, I can do this using magnification. Don't be guilty about that.
No.
If you can do that, good for you. I used magnification for years and years. Zoom text and Windows magnifier. Don't be ashamed to say that. It's fine. You don't have to use a screen reader to be considered part of our community.
No, exactly. That's right. And that, I think, that's the beginning of solving the problem, because for me over the years, especially in my 20s, it was all, I was just cast aside, frankly, by the blind community. No one was interested. When I started doing the Tech Talk show back at RNIB, I knew people wouldn't listen because they're like, well, he can't, he's not using a screen reader. What does he know, type thing.
Yeah.
And that affects you in a way, because you can't turn to anyone in that community. You don't feel part of that community anymore.
Yeah, but there's so many different stages in our community anyway. We're using the word community, and that even annoys some people. But
it annoys me, actually. I use the word all the time, and it annoys me.
I've got no problem using it. I think it's perfectly apt. But, for the longest time, there's a lot of people where magnification is the norm, is their level. So I would... Anyway, sorry, we could get on a whole hour-long conversation about this.
Well, it's double tap, so kind of what we're here for. But
we haven't got an hour left.
These conversations just this is the real stuff that people are facing every day. This is the stuff we're facing. If you only look at social media and you only look at blind influencers, let's say, you'll get the impression that the biggest challenge for blind people is other people who are sighted. And there is absolute truth in that. There is a lot of challenge out there. I talk about the sighted zombies and the challenge that we have trying to deal with people every day who don't understand it, who try and understand. My favorite, I think, my sort of quote of the year is always, "Oh, I wear glasses. I know what it's like." That kind of nonsense.
Yeah, I can't see anything when I take my glasses off.
Yes,
really?
Like you. But you can. So what are you talking about? And I think it's just that kind of stuff. Yes, and of course there's attitudes and the negative stuff. We've talked about it a lot. But we face it in our community, inside the bubble as well. And that's something that is less talked about, and it needs to be talked about. It really, really needs to be discussed, because it's a big issue for us, and it affects us in a meaningful way, and it pushes people out. People who are trying to navigate this world, who are trying to understand themselves, their own issues, their own visual challenges, to essentially be cast aside because, oh, you're just a partially sighted person. You can see. And I'll be honest, I don't want, if you think that way, I don't want to know you.
Yeah.
I really don't, because I just think, you know what? You got to look at yourself in that situation. You've really got to look past it. You've got to look at yourself and look at your own behavior, because I think it's a disgraceful approach. We've got to stop this nonsense. We've got to stop casting people aside. But on top of all of that, I would say I think there is a serious conversation to be had about what the blind community and the partially sighted community is. I think there's a staggering difference. And what I'm talking about here again is people who have been born blind versus people who are losing sight through life. The experiences, I think, are very different. Very different. We come up against the same challenges in the end. We come up against the same accessibility challenges. We come up against the same issues. But, you know, as we'll hear with some of the comments that are coming up later this week with emails, you know, especially around Braille, the idea of, you know, being unable to read Braille horrifies some blind people.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't. It actually shouldn't. Because you may be coming at this from an experience where you've learned as a child. Most of us who are in the partially sighted or started in the partially sighted world have not. And so we're in a different stage. And that's why I think we need to, I think the first thing that we all need to do is just be considerate. That's the first thing I would say. Start there. Start being considerate with each other, and, you know, stop making judgments based upon, you know, what, because you have no idea what someone can see. No idea.
No, and it doesn't even matter. It's just, there's common issues. That's why I use the word community, because there's common issues that we all face.
Yeah.
You know, and because of this certain specific disability. So I think we just concentrate on that, the common issues that we all know and can relate to.
Right, Shaun, I'm glad about it. Okay, so on to Leander, who sent this message in on WhatsApp.
Stephen and Shaun, it's Leander. Thanks again for a wonderful show. Just wanted to come in and say I loved the interview with Tim Dixon, all about the index Braille.
Yes.
Really took me back. I had an embosser when I was in education, up until I got my own flat due to room, which was 2009. I had the embosser for about 6 years, I would say. Absolutely fantastic. I used to love the Duxbury Braille translator, the way that the keyboard on the computer, your FDS keys and JKL keys would become the Braille typewriter. I find that software absolutely amazing. Anyway, as usual, thanks for a good show. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Leander. Glad you're enjoying the show. And the conversation with Tim about embossing was brilliant. And I think it's the first time we've ever had that conversation on embossing.
Yeah, well, it's one of those pieces of equipment that people don't usually come across, but it's interesting to see where it's at now. I still thought it was, you know, an industrial-sized wardrobe piece of kit, but
it's not far off it.
Well, no,
mine's is behind me. Just on the, if you're watching on YouTube, you might see it behind me, and it's a big machine.
Okay. All right.
You want to hear it go, I tell you. My wife thought the house was collapsing when I started printing out something.
I love Duxbury. I just love the name. Where did that come from?
It sounds like a beautiful English town that you
It
would
does,
visit.
doesn't it?
You know, where are you going this weekend? I'm off to Duxbury.
Yeah, or a duck cemetery.
Oh,
I
beautiful.
like it.
Wow.
Sorry, I went there.
Duck cemetery.
Thank you, Leander.
Dead fungus carcasses. I've got to say, that none of this was on my bingo card. Need to improve my bingo card. Speaking of Tim Dixon, here he is.
Hey, double tappers. Just replying to the feedback about Zoom text. Now, for me personally, I find, and I am running Zoom text 2025 as part of Fusion, I've ended up turning Zoom text off because I found it negatively impacts JAWS, and I'm trying to move more to using the screen reader. I have a fairly beefy machine. I've had machines with dedicated graphics cards in them, and I really struggled to get it to perform. Initially, I did reach out and get some support because it was, I just couldn't use it with Outlook, and change some settings, and that seemed to resolve that. What I would say is that I personally prefer to use the Max magnifier, and then running VMware Fusion instead of Parallels, and running Windows 11 ARM, and that works fine. I think it was on a recent episode we had you had Vespero on saying that there's a Zoom text version coming to ARM, which will be interesting. It'll also be interesting to see how much better the performance is. But to be honest, I'm at the stage where I'm not going to use it. I find the magnifier functionality of Apple while I'm running a VM is fantastic. So I jump in, zoom outside of the VM, and that zooms me in and out as I need to within it. And I would definitely recommend Mac, but that's just me. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Yeah, I'd recommend Mac all day and night as well, but that's just me.
Stop it. That's the trick you were using at one stage, right? Using the magnifier, the Mac magnifier. Was that right?
Yeah, I think that's partly why I've always kind of avoided using the screen on a PC, because I don't find Zoom particularly useful or good or...
Okay, you're absolutely ridiculous. Magnification on Windows is absolutely fine. I don't understand what the fonts aren't smooth enough. I tried it on the Mac. I actually preferred Windows than the Mac. I find it much easier to use. I know, weird.
Look, it's okay. You are an idiot. But it's fine.
Look, I didn't use it for very long. One character on the screen wasn't very helpful, so I didn't use it
that's the other side of it,
for very long.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, do you know what I think it is? I think it's the fast way of being able to access it. You can set it up where you have the control key, and I think you can do similar now with Windows Magnifier. But you can, you can hold in a control key, you can use the mouse and the scroll wheel, and you can basically zoom in and out almost instantly. And I think on the Mac that is so powerful. Now they have improved it a lot. You're right, and certainly in the last couple of years they've improved it beyond my need now. But at the time when I was using it, you had to do that Windows up arrow, and it would do that thing where it would kind of wait for a bit and then think about it, and then it would zoom in, and then it would kind of and then crash, and then
Windows
and then,
plus,
horrible.
Windows minus. It's
Windows
very...
it was stuck, it was frozen.
It's
dreadful.
No, it's very good. Give it a try.
Don't get me wrong. I just said it's better now, but I don't need it now.
Well,
I don't care about. I don't care
it.
about now.
Leave
I care
it
about the
alone.
past.
Leave Microsoft alone. They're only little. Yeah, I'd be very interested, though, in people's experiences of Zoom text, because I have heard this a couple of times now about sluggish performance, and I want to know why. Is that anything to do with discrete graphics cards? Is there some sort of graphic hook that it uses?
What's a discrete graphics card? Is that a jacket? Does it
this is very strange,
walk up to it?
I always thought a discrete graphics card would be one that was hidden away. So something that was built into the processor, for example, which a lot of the processors have now, their own inbuilt graphics. But apparently it's the complete opposite. A discrete graphics card is actually a third-party graphics card, something like NVIDIA or AMD built into your laptop, not the one built into the processor. So I'm just wondering if there's some sort of driver issue here. Honestly, I don't know. I don't use it.
Is a discrete graphics card where if it calls your house and your wife answers, it'll say it's your best friend?
I can't believe he went there. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. On to one more. I think we'll get one more out of this for today. This is from Greg Hayes on the same subject of Zoom text.
Hey there, it's Greg from Phoenix, and I have quick response for a question from the show on Friday, November 22nd, I think it is. One viewer was asking about Zoom text and Fusion running on ARM, and I was just listening to a Vespero podcast where they do Q&A a couple of nights ago, and they mentioned that they are working on an ARM version of Zoom text. They have one already for JAWS. I've been using it for a couple of years, but not for Zoom, and therefore not Fusion. They are working on it. It'll probably be out sometime in 25, but it's not ready yet. And they are very encouraged because the performance on ARM seems to be faster than on Intel. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, Shaun and Stephen, you keep mentioning that battery life on the Pro phones is better than the regular phones, and
he said
actually that. I think what you meaning to say is that the battery is better on the Max or Plus models than they are on the smaller or regular size models. So just because it's a Pro doesn't mean it has better battery.
He's right.
Pro Max to have better batteries.
That sounds
or
rubbish.
If on the standard line, the iPhone 16 Plus.
Fake news.
I remember last year, the with the 15. It was the iPhone 15 Plus that had the best battery of all 4 of the 15 phones.
Well, that's enough, Greg.
So it's the size of the phone, not whether it's Pro or regular, that matters. Take it easy.
If that's what you tell yourself, that's up to you. Thank you, Greg.
He's absolutely right.
Hear from you. No, you may well be right, in which case I apologise profusely for anything I've said on that topic and will absolutely blame Shaun Priest.
Yes, absolutely. Although your audio quality was terrible there, so no.
Mine or his?
No, Greg's.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, so yeah. Sorry, Greg, you're right. It is the size of the phone that actually size matters. Unbelievable. Quickly, let's end the show.
Yes, please. I'm sure it'll be ended for us at this rate. What was the other thing he was talking about? You completely threw me there with that. What was the other thing he was
talking
mentioning?
about Zoom text on ARM.
Oh, yes, ARM. Now, this is a thing. ARM processors. Anyone out there using a Copilot Plus PC? I've been tempted to buy one just to play with. But first off, I don't know which one to buy. And secondly, because there's so many of them. And, it's one of those, do you buy the Plus? Do you buy the Elite? Obviously, the answer is you buy the Elite, because why wouldn't you? But
just throw money at it. Yeah.
Is anyone trying this stuff? Is anyone using it? I've seen a couple of people. In fact, there's one particular individual I'm trying to get on the show. We're trying to get a date for her to come on because I'd love to hear. She decided to return hers, and I'd like to hear why.
Sounds like everyone else did as well. The enormous build up just ended in a meh. It was
really.
It's not there yet. It just isn't there. The emulation isn't there, and that's why Apple just absolutely nailed it with their Apple Silicon, because the emulation was fantastic. And Windows, yet again, it just didn't happen. The software support isn't there. Yeah, that is the issue. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I must admit, this is where Mac with Rosetta has kind of nailed it perfectly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, you're not getting the same experience, it would seem. Although in saying that, I've been running Windows on ARM on the Mac now on beta for a while, and now on the official version, running JAWS, and it's absolutely fine. I mean, it doesn't seem to. I mean, okay, the Mac is probably the reason, but it's working really well. See, I keep saying it. If you want a really good experience of Windows, buy a Mac.
Okay. Microsoft just released, what was it? Or just announced the Microsoft Surface Link, was it? It's the Microsoft's answer to the M4 Mac Mini. A very small form factor.
Really?
Windows PC,
Hang
yes.
on, what? I don't hear anything about this. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
This up?
No. That was at the recent, was it the Microsoft, what do they call it? Ignite?
Yeah.
Event.
It gets a bit, it's hard to watch those things because they're so geeky. It's unbelievable. I mean, very smart people, but, I don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Aimed at, for some reason, aimed at enterprise, I believe. I'm going to
forget it.
I'm going to look into it a little bit more, but not quite. It's more of a client rather than a powerhouse like the Mac Mini.
Oh, no, hang on. Was it? I did see something. Right, this was the cloud computer you can buy. It's not an actual physical machine, is it? This is where you can buy a computer in the cloud. They've been kind of working up to this. Remember Windows 365?
This is exactly it. No, this is a physical thing. This is a client. They call it a thin PC. So it's the physical side. But all the power is remote. The power isn't in the physical computer that you've got. It's almost like a Chromebook, you could say,
Well, it's terminal again, isn't it? It's back to the old days.
It's back to, client, terminals. Yeah, exactly.
And then all the computing power is in the cloud.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
The clouds are all powerful, as we all know.
Very powerful clouds. Just goodness help your electricity bill and the rest of the planet, frying as a result of it. Should be fun. Now, hang on. There was one more I wanted to bring in as I try and find it here.
I'll quickly look through. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. That's the problem. It was just here a second ago, and
dear.
I've completely lost it.
Someone
Hang
Phil.
on. There it is. Molly got in touch. We found it in the end.
Good evening, Double Tap team. Molly
Hello, Molly.
here.
Hi, Molly.
Loving hearing about all the Be My Eyes features.
Mm.
And I'm hoping that audio description will be supplied at more concerts, Shaun.
I totally agree, by the way. Yes, that's after my visit to Alice Cooper at Manchester Arena or wherever it was. I love AD. Rock on, Tommy. The more AD, the better. Never mind TV. I want it on live events as well. I agree, Molly.
I could do it for you. There's a guy, I'm assuming it's a guy, jumping around the stage, singing a song. Does that not summarise it pretty well?
Yeah. Don't give up your day job, Stephen Scott. Look, it's all about the theatre. He's an amazing performer. It's all, there's sets and things happening. I want to know what's going on.
I want to know when it ends and I can go home. That's
Right,
generally what I
that's
like.
our listeners are saying right now.
Yeah, they probably are. Yeah, come to think of it. Hey, listen, we're back tomorrow with more of your emails, more of your thoughts as well. And goodness me, we've got so many emails, so we decided to focus in this week.
We should say, look, we're getting so many of your messages, your WhatsApp, your emails and voicemails.
Oh.
It's amazing. It's fantastic.
I sense a butt coming, a big wobbly butt coming.
No butt coming up. No butt coming up. It's just that I am trying my best to respond to the WhatsApp and handle the WhatsApp, but it's overwhelming sometimes. But hopefully, if you have WhatsApped us, I have got back to you. It's almost an apology for being late.
Well, I'll say the thing you're not saying, which is I think we should ask our lovely listeners to perhaps be maybe bring some brevity to your messages a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we're going to get to the stage where we're not going to be able to play in all of your messages, and we really want to play in all your messages, but maybe when I say all of it, I mean the whole thing. We're going to have to chop it down a bit. So if you are able to, summarize your thoughts using AI or whatever you want, then
don't use AI. Use your own thoughts. Stop that, Stephen Scott.
I thought, would you bring some tech into it? But never mind.
Sorry. This is double
you do
time.
try around here. Yeah, it's a tech show, honest. Anyway, look, we're out of time for today. Do keep in touch. We'll be back tomorrow with more of your thoughts. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Weird.